Welcome everybody to the webinar today. We are here with the Florida SBDC at UNF presenting restaurants in the new normal. Thank you for joining us. I know we've got some people that are still coming in and attending. But we'll get started in just a second, but I just wanted to give a couple housekeeping items. Panelists, if you are not speaking to the crowd, please mute yourself. Attendees will be muted upon arrival. So if you have questions, there's a section in your control panel to ask your questions. Please ask them there, type them in, and we will address them at the end of the presentation. We'll have time for some Q&A. Also want to remind everybody that you will be getting a survey at the end of the webinar for some feedback. We love our feedback, live and die by it. So please answer that survey. We appreciate it. And then everybody will also be getting a link to the recording so you can watch this later if you missed anything. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to our Florida SBDC at UNF consultant, Mr. Greg Grant. Take it away.
All right, thank you, Allie. I want to welcome everyone to Restaurants in the New Normal. We have an exciting list here on the call with us, on the webinar with us today. So I'm very excited about these restaurants and how they are adapting to the new normal. Here at SBDC, our mission is to promote growth, innovation, activity, and revenue for small businesses at no cost. So it's just a pleasure to be aligned with like the Florida Restaurant Lodging Association, wherein their mission is to promote, educate, and protect the Florida hospitality industry. And also they provide legislative advocacy as well for their members. So I'm just excited to see and provide information in this industry and help other restaurants get some ideas on adapting into the new norm. So without further ado, I'm excited to introduce Nicole Chapman, the Regional Director for the Florida chapter. And if you can just share with us some details of what's going on in the current phase and some information about your organization.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gregory and SBDC, for inviting us and some of our wonderful restaurant members on the call today. I'm Nicole Chapman. I'm our Regional Director for the Florida Restaurant Lodging Association, Northeast. We represent 5 counties, Amelia Island, so Nassau, Duval, Clay, Putnam, and St. John's. We work with hotels and lodging establishments on advocacy efforts, training for their employees. Right now, we are their go-to resource for information coming down from the state when it comes to executive orders and how it relates to openings with the DBPR restrictions, and also with the local governments if they're adding any restrictions to that. So we're working and advocating hard for our industry to make sure that we can open safely, back open as soon as possible. So as all of you know, Northeast Florida is in full phase 1, which is 50% occupancy for our restaurants. No changes for hotels. They've lifted all the essential traveler bans, which is a great thing. So with Memorial Day weekend coming up, we are sure hoping that our restaurants and hotels will pick up this weekend, since they've had a very much downturn over the last few months. And hopefully we talk daily with the governor's office and the DBPR staff, let them see that our restaurants are really honestly going above and beyond complying with sanitary and safety measures to their staff members and patrons. So we're hoping that as the numbers continue to decline, we can move into phase 2 and continue to in Florida. So we are here just to answer questions and be a resource for all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. I really appreciate that narrative and the great things that our FRLA does in our restaurant community, and hotel organizations as well. I would like to introduce our panelists. We have with us Dennis Chan from Blue Bamboo. We also have Don Samora from the Beachcomber restaurant, and we have Kelly Harris from Village Bread Cafe. So let's start with Don. Don, if you can tell us a little bit about your business and how you've been adapting to what's going on right now. We're in phase 1.
Sure, it'd be my pleasure, Greg. Thank you, and Nicole for inviting me to be on here as a panelist, and welcome everybody. So, Beachcomber, we're located down at St. Augustine Beach. We're right on the beach, and we're kind of an outdoor, mostly outdoor establishment, casual, full service dining. So, as far as addressing, or I guess adapting our business to phase one, with table spacing, we've been able to space our tables out. We've been very, very fortunate when it comes to this. We probably have access to 85% of our seats at this point in time. We've made a lot of changes to the business, and mostly those revolve around sanitation, that type of thing. So I think we're going to get into that stuff a little bit further, but yeah, that's a little bit about the Beachcomber, where we are, and where we stand here during phase one.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Don. Kelly Harris, if you can tell us a little bit about your business.
Thank you, Gregory and Nicole. Appreciate you having this time where we all get to chat and talk about the ideas that we're all doing to reinvent ourselves. Our little company, we have two restaurants. One's in downtown Jacksonville at the Ameris Bank building, and one's on Phillips Highway in Jacksonville. We are a breakfast lunch cafe. We have been around since this will be our 11th year, and you know, we're reinventing ourselves one more time. We went through the recession and had to reinvent ourselves, and we're doing it again. So I guess you got to look at it that we've been blessed to have that experience of the recession, so we can figure out how to reinvent ourselves now. We're a little bit more fortunate than others. We generally close at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so we now utilizing our building after 3 o'clock and doing family pack meals. We've done the grocery store, convenience store application as well. So we're doing that, and you know, most of us in the restaurant business are clean. I'd say 90% of us all operate very clean restaurants and have good practices and procedures already. So we haven't really changed a whole lot there. The mask is an issue. So we're battling that. I do particularly like my current mask. This is the Jaguar emblem, and but we all have different masks that we wear. And we've had fun with that. But so we're adapting this to the new CDC guidelines and recommendations, along with the state FRLA and the NRA of what they ask us to do. So glad to be a part. Hope I can help somebody here that's listening. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for that, Kelly. One of the interesting things that you said that stood out to me is you're making it fun during this time, man. And I think that's a good takeaway. Mr. Dennis Chan.
Hi, Gregory. Thanks for having me on. You know, we're in year 15 of our business here on Southside Boulevard, Blue Bamboo. And our business really here is hospitality and welcoming people into our restaurant and serving them and them having a great meal and then going and wanting to come back for that experience again. So having been shut down the last 8 weeks, it's given us a chance to try new things like takeout orders, or we've also done virtual cooking classes out of our business. And, you know, we've always done in-person cooking classes for the time that we've been open. And now we have these virtual classes just to keep people in mind. And they've done very well, because when people are at home and they have nothing to do, they might as well cook like you know, like a restaurant. And we're thankful because we're building a new restaurant, and many of these features we wanted to include in our new restaurant, and we're lucky to kind of get to practice it a little bit before we actually have to put it into place when we open 6 months down the road. So it's, you know, we're sad about not having the sales these last few weeks, but thankful for getting the experience to practice new ways of doing business.
That's excellent. And wow, I'm gonna have to check into that virtual cooking class. Hopefully I don't burn down the house, but I'm definitely gonna give that a try. So one of the things that I really wanted to really bring to fruition here and to the forefront is, obviously there's a new normal in our industry, specifically with restaurants and hotels and hospitality industry as a whole. And some of the things that are being impacted during the new normal are areas like staffing, compliance, operations, margins, advertising. I mean, there's a lot of different things that have changed that as business owners, we have to adapt to. And I want to kind of look at the staffing area. I know 2/3 of restaurant employees were laid off or furloughed during the pandemic. And, what I'm interested in knowing about, and hopefully panelists, you can shed some light on this, is some restaurants out there are having challenges hiring back personnel in this phase, or rehiring. So I'm going to turn this question to you, Kelly. Have you been having any challenges with that? And if so, what have you done differently to overcome that?
Well, we're a small company. We have 24 teammates, and we furloughed 19 of the 24. So, but before we furloughed, we actually had called, we're across the street from a Walmart. We know people at Target and Publix, and we called folks to say, hey, we're going to do this with our people. Can you help them, or do you have anything that they could do? And about 60% of them got temporary jobs until we were able to reopen or to receive the PPP money. Once we received the PPP money, we hired everybody back. And in our meeting on the rehire, we gave everybody a toothbrush. And we said, listen, business is not back, but you've got to stay busy. And if you don't stay busy, then it's going to be a problem when we get busy. And we generally have problems when we're slow. We don't generally have problems when we're clicking along. So the toothbrush was to say, if you don't have anything to do and there's nobody to tell you what to do, you go up, you get the ladder and you go get the ceiling towel and you use that toothbrush and you start cleaning the ceiling towel with the toothbrush. And we made kind of funny of it. We weren't as serious as it was, just to know that you have to stay busy when you're in our restaurants, whether you're slow, and then when you're busy, you're busy. So we're fortunate to get all of them back. And now we're also concerned what happens if it doesn't come back before the PPP money leaves us. But anyway, that's what we've done, to answer your question. Thank you, Greg.
Well, thank you, Kelly, for that response. And I tell you, I'm going to coin that as the toothbrush strategy. I like that. Staying busy when you're not busy. Here's the toothbrush strategy. So that's awesome. Don, how about you? How are things working out for you as far as the rehiring strategy?
Well, some of what we did is similar to what Kelly just said. We did furlough probably 2/3 of our employees. We had 45 to 50 prior to having to close down. We migrated our business to takeout only, and that allowed us to keep about 12 to 14 folks on staff. Once we received the PPP money and indication that we could reopen, we brought everyone in. We had staff meetings. We took the time to work on processes and things that the things that typically fall to the bottom of the file, things that get neglected. Once we brought everyone back, we brought back not servers and hostesses and bussers. We brought back painters and cleaners and things like that. So we cleaned. Funny, we've got decorations, coconuts that hang from our ceiling. Every single one of them was cleaned, and we had tables that needed to be refinished, and we had servers doing that. So everybody found a job. A lot of the deferred maintenance that we typically don't get to got taken care of, and we even used it. We were looking at, do we want a new POS system, big project like that? So we used some time like that to do some research. One of the most important things we did, like Kelly said, he had 24 teammates. We refer to our folks as a family. while we were closed, we invited all of the furloughed employees to come in and get their shift meal. Realizing that these folks, most of them weren't working. We wanted to help out any way we could, so we allowed them to come and get a meal every day. This also allowed us to keep communication with them. So, on top of communicating electronically with them, we got to see them. Some every day, some it was once a week. But when we were ready to go, they were ready to go. So we were very fortunate when it came to that. There are some people that didn't come back. They weren't comfortable with it yet. They may be older. They had some other pre-existing underlying health issues. For them, they're going to come back when they're comfortable. We're not going to force them. We're not going to tell them we're going to have to replace you. There's a place for you when you're ready, that type of thing. As far as hiring replacements or getting back up to full staff, or even over full staff, we actually have more people on staff now than we had prior, due to some of the extra sanitation that we have to do. Right. So, but we have not had a problem finding it. I mean, there's plenty of people out there looking for jobs, and some of them may be temporary, but we'll use them right now.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you for that, Don. Mr. Dennis Chan.
Yes. We had cut a lot of hours when we were doing takeout only. And, it allowed each of us to still have some income coming in, each of our staff to have a little bit of income, although reduced. And once we got our PPP, we brought on the people who wanted to come back. And like Don and Kelly, I'm sure some people didn't want to come back yet. And we're here for them when they're ready. So we are, just slowly getting back up, and like everyone else, doing toothbrush detail. And we always were clean, but it's just allowed us to dust the extra corners that we missed in the past. So we're happy. We're very grateful for having that program. And it's going to work out good for us.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Dennis. And I want to start with you, Nicole. I want to ask you this question, and then we'll ask the panelists. But because of the COVID-19 factor, do you feel it's going to have a forever changing impact on restaurant staffing?
We're just going to have to wait and see. So obviously, as Kelly mentioned and everyone else agrees with, food safety in Florida follow one of the toughest food codes. So changing any of that sanitation is not needed. So we follow really strict food codes. The additional sanitation in the public spaces is probably the way to be for a very long time. So I think that once people get into the group of it, it might or it might not. A lot of folks are into a lot more of the takeouts and how that affects staffing, with maybe using third-party companies or utilizing their own staffs and services for that. So I think overall, we're all going to be innovative and see what's coming and be prepared and say, hey, we've done it this way. Let's utilize these great staff members we have in a new way. Maybe they'll help with more of the social media, or they'll help takeout stuff and really turning in some of that everyday cleaning into staff jobs. So we're just gonna have to wait and see how it works out. But I know our restaurants and hotels are very eager to keep the staff members that they have employed.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And speaking of staff, and I know, FRLA does a great job with legislative advocacy for the members and things like that. And, there's a lot of compliance changes too that impact staff pretty much. And OSHA urges businesses to take, sensible social distancing measures, such as, alcohol-based washing of your hands, installing plexiglass, things like that. Don, let me ask you this question. What are you doing differently in your business, or you recommend other restaurants to do when it comes to compliance to social or to sensible social distancing?
So as Nicole said, and some of the other folks have mentioned, restaurants are generally very clean places anyway. Mm-hmm. So we focused on some of the things that are more customer facing, things to give customers visual cues that we're taking this seriously. So
Excellent.
we had the mandatory stuff that we all have to do, spacing tables 6 feet apart. We actually have a stick. We have our 6-foot stick that we keep handy just in case somebody wants to question us on it. But we did things like we mounted 5 new hand sanitizers on our outside deck and seating area. So that's for guests and for staff. We've done things like, in relation to the hand sanitizing, we're getting some sanitizer locally with the distillery here in St. Augustine, and we're posting it on social media. So we're getting it out there. We're getting the message out there to folks that are wondering, are they taking it seriously? Yes, we are. We posted photos of staff wearing masks so that they can see that. Some of the other things we've got. One of the things we try to simplify this for staff, for customers, for everybody coming in. We've got a clean side of the restaurant and a dirty side, and it applies to things like menus. If you take a menu from a table, it goes to a dirty pile, and then the hostess stands there and sanitizes it as the guests are coming in. She can, they can see the menus have been sanitized. They're all in plastic sleeves. We do that with pens. We do that with guest checkbooks. So there's visual cues that customers see as they're walking around. There's the dirty pens and the clean pens. Servers don't, and this was something we actually had to reverse something we've been beating into their heads. Servers pre-bus your tables. Not anymore. Servers are the clean side of the house. Now we've got bussers that take away anything that's been touched by a customer, anything that's been utilized. We don't just have anybody rolling silverware. We have silverware needs to be rolled. It's rolled by one person with gloves on, sitting off to the side, and they don't do anything else until they're done. So I found that having that mentality of clean side, dirty side really helped us identify some things that if a customer's touched it, we have a select group of people that are going to interact with that item, plates, fork, whatever it is. Condiments is another thing. If it's been on a table, it goes to the dirty condiments pile till it gets sanitized. That's some of the things we've done. Again, really focus on making the customers that are there feel comfortable we're taking it seriously, and then they can tell their friends about it.
That's great information, Don. I really appreciate that, especially the visual cues. Having those visual cues is definitely a great way of making the customers feel comfortable in the time that we're in right now. So that's excellent information.
Absolutely.
Dennis.
Everything. He still got the truck order with, did inventory?
Yes, Greg.
Do that?
Yeah, so what are you doing differently as far as the sensible social distancing?
Well, our restaurant is not that big of a place. We have about 100 seats inside the restaurant. And so we've used all the corners to be able to separate people. None of our tables are closer than 6 feet to each other, which that allows us probably about a 70-ish% capacity if we needed it. So we have separated the tables, the wiping down and stuff we've always done. So we just, it's more visual now so that people feel safe when they're here at the restaurant. And, we have masks available for staff and guests if they would like it. It's for the restaurant business, it's hard to smile when you're in the hospitality business and then cover it up with a mask. So, we keep distance from the guests, and then, if they'd like, we would also be glad to cover it up. So cover our faces up.
I like that, having the option of being able to use the mask or not. That's a great strategy.
Yeah.
Mr. Kelly, what are you doing differently in your establishment as far as complying with sensible social distancing?
We have sanctioned off the tables. I think we're probably all doing a lot of the same things.
Okay.
we have taken the sanctioned off tables, and we put to-go menus on there. We put notes on each table that's a little bit different. We have sayings on the wall, on our quote wall, so we put little quotes on the tables. So we've done things to try to get people to have fun and ask questions that are here, but frankly, the people just aren't coming in. I mean, they are. I mean, it's a little bit better today than it was yesterday, but just because the governor says you can come in doesn't mean the people are coming. But besides that, we've done the menu wiping, we've laminated menus where we didn't have those before. So we're doing a lot of the same things that both Dennis and Don already talked about.
Excellent. And it sounds like the visual cues, it seems to be the common theme that I've been hearing to make clients feel comfortable and safe. And so that's great information. And speaking of that too, when we look at compliance, we also kind of go into how this is impacting operations, right? Because of these compliance changes. And studies show that consumers are placing more value in this on cleanliness versus other factors such as price and things like that. I'm gonna direct this to you, Don. How is your new business model reflecting the new consumer demand of cleanliness forward?
You were cutting out of there a little bit. Can you just repeat that question for me one more time?
I sure can. So as far as your business model, because I know a lot of changes is taking place, and the new consumer demand, and as of right now, a lot of customers are looking at cleanliness over price, and concerned with safety. Moving forward, how is your business model permanently changing?
I don't know that our business model is going to permanently change. I think some of the sanitation stuff being more visible is going to stick with us. We will probably end up with more folks on staff to support the cleanliness portion of it. I'm going to, sounds like the three panelists that are on here, we all got PPP money. I'm using this period of PPP covering our labor costs to try to determine how some of the additional costs around sanitation are going to affect us. I think we're seeing a lot of volatility out there with supply and demand and the pricing that goes along with it. So right now, I don't have any. I look at this as a temporary type of a thing, at least for the next few months. I'm going to monitor good God, any type of financial measure that you had that you may have been using for the past 10 years is out the window for the past 2 months and probably the next coming 2 months. So we're gonna have to monitor costs, see where they normalize, if we're gonna adjust anything, if we need to make adjustments to menus and things like that. But I am anticipating some additional sanitation costs. I don't know how drastic that's going to be. We're monitoring that. Some labor may go up, things like that, but the overall product we're putting out to customers isn't changing. It's about making customers feel comfortable, come to a fun, inviting place, and have a good meal and a good atmosphere. That's not going to change.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Don. Nicole, as far as FRLA, I know you're really close to this stuff on the legislative side and regulatories. What are you kind of hearing out there as far as regulatories and maybe some consumer surveys and things like that?
Mm-hmm.
What are you hearing?
Well, one thing to know is that FRLA, we like to give guidance and suggestions. We are not for adding any more mandates because, as we mentioned earlier, the Florida Food Code is very strict. And the folks that follow it very well do great. I know Dennis just mentioned he had a health inspector there today. So they are out and about doing stuff, and all of our folks are passing. So it's just a matter of making sure that these new suggestions and items we need to take into place right now, people have the ability to do it and can get the products. Something that these restaurateurs have not said is the cost of food has gone up. And
Right.
so they're having to look at how that affects their weekly budgets, because the price of chicken is not the same as it was 2 months ago. So, or, you know, the price of a hamburger. So a lot of that, not even the sanitation sidelines, that really drastically affects, you know, their very small margins of what they're able to recuperate from those menu pricing. So not only those things going into place, but just the whole business as a whole of how that works. You know, obviously when to-go picked up, it was hard to get to-go products. So
Right.
demand stuff really goes into this. So at FRLA, we are not pushing our state legislatures or local legislatures for any additional sanitation guidelines, because that food code really truly covers everything that is important to keep our guests.
Excellent. Thank you, Nicole. Kelly, I want to ask you a question. And Nicole mentioned about budgets. And, you know, within the supply chain, I know that, you know, there's an impact to budgets and margins. What recommendations do you recommend for overcoming those challenges, the budgeting?
Right now, we're actually have gone back to our current expenses, trying to think one that I can make an example of. The knife sharpener and the slicer sharpener guy, Cozzini Brothers. We've cut them back a little because we don't slice as much. We're not cutting as much. So we've cut back.
Did Kelly mute?
Am I good?
Okay, I can hear you now.
Sorry about that. So we try to look at some fixed expenses and cut those back where we can. You know, you can't save your way to profitability. You got to build sales to get yourself into the black. But so that's really what we've done, basically, because we have, you know, we just have cut fixed expenses where we could. So
Right.
Budgets are out. No budget just yet. We probably should look at it now that you're talking about it, but we're just not spending when we don't have to.
Makes sense. Mr. Chan, how about you? How are you overcoming the challenges of the supply chain as far as cost?
Well, the good thing with us is a lot of, and we had this advantage over a lot of other people in our category. You know, a lot of Asian restaurants purchase their supplies from overseas, and so a few of those suppliers were closed during the time when we were, you know, when we were down, when we were doing takeout only. So for us, we source most of our ingredients locally, and we manufacture them in-house. So we didn't have to rely on those supplies, you know, not getting in. We were very lucky in that sense in our business model that, and our volume was sustainable with the supplies we could get. So we're very lucky with that. More importantly is the education of our staff and the communication to our guests that that's something that we do, and something that happens, because I think most of the clients, if they put you into a category, they don't realize that, you know, if we're serving a burger, that they don't realize that the burger comes from just 30 miles down the road instead of coming from a big plant somewhere. You know, we're glad to have those relationships with our purveyors so that we can keep being supplied.
Excellent, excellent. And I appreciate that. So Don, how about what are you doing differently?
So, yeah, I don't think fluctuations in the supply chain are anything new to us. I mean, we've all run through our major cost is food, right? So food and labor. So, you know, wings fluctuate around Super Bowl time, and we've had it with tomatoes, and now, you know, now it may be meats or beefs that are going up. Again, I think a lot of it is temporary. So I don't think we're going to have any major shortages where we need to reinvent our menu, anything like that. I'm looking at the PPP as providing relief to the labor side of my business that will allow me to run on some reduced margins when it comes to the food side. So, and you got to remember, if you're thinking about, boy, beef hamburger has gone through the roof, I need to reinvent my menu. That costs you money too, and then there's a whole education process, and so I'm going to take a look at this as it's a couple month event, and we do have some financial relief in terms of PPP, so we can sacrifice a little margin, whether it's going to food costs or sanitation cost increases. So that's part of it. The other thing that I have done since we had to shut down is I went back to my annual forecast, and I adjusted revenue numbers, pulled out any fixed cost I could. As Kelly mentioned, advertising was one of the first to go, or at least it migrated to a lower cost type advertising. So minimizing the fixed costs and then bringing those back on, as the revenue returns is going to be important. But April, I had to adjust April's revenue numbers down 85%, and May is also adjusted down, and June may be adjusted down. So I think having all of that stuff laid out for you on kind of a forecast or pro forma type of a spreadsheet or whatever you use is going to be important for you to see what your numbers actually look like. And PPP being a big part of that, if you were lucky enough to get in on that program.
Excellent. And we're going to move kind of into marketing and advertising. You just brought that up, Don. I know right now some consumers are concerned about overall safety, not just in restaurants, but just overall in general. And that has an impact on the way that companies are advertising and marketing. I want to direct this to you, Kelly. What changes have you implemented to market and advertise your restaurant due to COVID-19?
On social media, we've stopped print, and just really limited it to social media on the things that we're trying to change to create revenue.
Okay. So social media? Gotcha.
Yes, sir.
And how about you, Don? What have you done differently as far as your marketing and advertising?
We, like Kelly, cut print out altogether. We've ramped up social media on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all of those platforms. Probably doubled the amount of postings we're doing there to get the word out. And again, we've migrated it from just daily specials to getting more creative with new things we're offering, and also the cleanliness and sanitation, making people feel comfortable about it. We've got a billboard up that, so we've got a long-term contract there. We went to that vendor, and I'll tell you, the vendors, I would say all except for one, and I won't name them, but every single one of our vendors helped us out. A billboard's not a little expense. It's a pretty big fixed expense you've got, but they helped us out. They said, we'll just put this on pause for a couple months, and they're going to add it to the end of the contract. So that advertising's out there. I thought about putting something up, hey, we're reopen, things like that. Haven't done that yet, but social media is probably the easiest, quickest way to get the word out.
Excellent. Mr. Chan, what have you done differently to implement changes to your marketing and advertisement for your restaurant?
Well, our marketing has, pretty much been on hold. We've been focusing more on communication instead of, marketing. In the past, we were able to do mailings. We were able to do advertising in hotels. And, all that right now, there's no one in hotels. There's no, so we know that we can put that on hold. And, again, the contract may be extended, but we can use that to our advantage once people are in the hotels again. It really has been more on communicating what we're doing and just letting people know our story and hoping that carries some weight once everyone's ready to come out again.
Excellent.
Greg,
Nicole?
let me add to that before we move off of marketing. There was one other thing that I forgot that we're doing that people may be able to take advantage of because it's cheap or free. Emails. If you've got a customer email list, because I forget about this sometimes. We've got a pretty extensive email list, and try to get a message out to those folks, because some of them they've signed up for our email newsletter, but they live in Ohio or somewhere not in the area, and our phone has been ringing off the hook since we reopened. And guess what the number one question is? Are you open? Are you open? Can we come in? And so pick up the phone and answer it. And if you've got an email list, that's a free way to let everybody know, yeah, we're open for normal hours, that type of thing.
That's great information, great strategy in utilizing email marketing. Totally agree with that. Nicole, as far as safety and marketing and advertising, I know that FRLA put out a lot of information throughout social media as well. And what can you share about safety concerns in the community as it relates to the hospitality industry?
Absolutely. So obviously this whole pandemic affects every single person completely differently, from whether you have young children to elderly parents or health condition yourself. So knowing that affects everyone differently, there's not a end all be all answer for how a restaurant should respond. It's their personal decision. It's their restaurant. So, some of the restaurants still have not opened indoor dining because they're not comfortable yet. Some have gone and they're doing really well with it. So it just is a matter of making sure that the guests that do choose to go to that restaurant are comfortable there. We don't want anyone to dine at an establishment they're not comfortable with. And obviously FRLA is out there to answer questions and be a resource for all of our restaurateurs. During when restaurants were shut down, we kept getting inquiries, and so did the Department of Business and Professional Regulations. They actually created a little portal to report someone that, a patron felt that was not following the guidelines. So they put that into effect. So it was a self-reporting feature. And then also we work closely with the Department of the DBPR to get questions answered from our restaurateurs. They have more questions than the average public does because they want to make sure public safety is at the forefront of how they choose to reopen their establishment. So just making sure that communication method is flowing through. Obviously we send our emails to our members, we post it on our social. There's always so many different ways to get a hold of each other, but always just picking up that phone and asking the question is the best way to get an answer, because if that person has that question, so does someone else.
Excellent. I appreciate that. So I have one last question before we open the floor up for any Q&As, but and I'm gonna direct this to you, Kelly. Let's start with you. Ultimately, what do you feel is the most important marketing message to your customers dining at your restaurant? You're on mute. Okay, we're gonna come back to Kelly. Don, let me send that question to you. What do you feel is the most important marketing message to your customers dining at your restaurant?
That we are open and that we're doing it in a very safe way that respects social distancing and makes them feel comfortable. Just get the word out as yes, we are there, because again, so many people traveling from outside of the area or that aren't right in your backyard. And as Nicole pointed out, not every restaurant is open, even though they can be. So let them know that you're there. Let them know you're doing it in a safe, responsible way.
Excellent, excellent. Mr. Dennis Chan, what do you feel is the most important marketing message to your customers dining at your restaurant?
The best marketing message that we could give to send out there is that not only are we just as good as we were before we were, this whole thing, we're even better, because while we were not allowed to serve our guests in the restaurant, we were doing things to make ourselves better. and come back even stronger. And I think that's a message that, we didn't just sit idle while we were not allowed to serve everyone in our restaurant. We were working, and I think that's the case with a lot of people out there. I mean, with a small restaurant, we were, within safe measures, we were able to still do things in the restaurant, and that's important for people to know that it's even better now than it was before.
Excellent, excellent. Mr. Kelly, can you hear us?
Yes, sir. I hope so.
So if you could tell us what do you feel is the most important marketing message to your customers dining at your restaurant?
And that's, I think Dennis might have built on this. We're just trying to communicate with not only our regular guests, but our people that are driving by, and let them know that we're open, we're safe, and we're ready to serve. We're anxious to serve. The only other thing that we've really done more so than we normally do is put out the real estate signs. The real estate sign hunters that are out there picking those signs up as soon as you put them down, there seem to be in giving us a break lately. So we've actually put more out there than we normally do, just to do something different for people to notice, oh, they're there. I mean, as they drive by on Phillips Highway or they drive by on River Place Boulevard. So they're coming. We do have to work, since we're a more commercial area, we do got to get the people back into their offices and their jobs for us to come fully out of this pandemic. But we just want to communicate with others that we're there, and really social media and real estate signs is how we're doing it.
Excellent. I really appreciate that. Right now, we're going to take a few questions from our audience. I think we have a couple here. One of the questions is, how are you communicating with potential customers so that they feel comfortable about coming into your restaurant? I think we can do that a little bit, but Don, if you want to take that question.
Sure. One of the things that we did prior to opening was we made a list of everything we had done, all the stuff we cleaned, all the extra processes and procedures that we put into place with new sanitizers and things like that. We put that all onto a form, and we actually put that on a clipboard that every guest gets when they come in. So it goes to the table and they can actually see. And I use that as a script for things like social media and emails. So, I talked about like an email blast that goes out announcing that you're open, and here are the things that we've done. Putting that out on social media. I've noticed a lot of the food review forums and different places like that people are looking, they're asking for, hey, have you seen places that are open and doing it responsibly? And chime in, have somebody get out there and monitor that. If you've got staff that's on that's good at that type of thing, and you're a little slow and you can't give them full hours, have them monitor your social media, get out there and hit all the different forums and non-traditional channels, because people are looking. We picked up a lot of new customers, even with the takeout stuff we were doing, that brought in new customers. And I think long term it's going to parlay into just grabbing more market share and adding additional repeat customers.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you for that, Don. Mr. Chan, I also want to direct that question at you as well, just to get another perspective also. How are you communicating with potential customers so that they feel comfortable about coming into your restaurant?
Well, with us, since we've been around for so long, we have a lot of regular customers, and in normal times, about 90% of our customers are regular customers. So for us, the need is more to get the message out to those customers that frequented us, and so more of that, quote, getting the message out is done in-house, just like Don. It's just that instead of a clipboard, ours is a disposable sheet of paper that is on every table as they sit down. If they want to read about it, they see, you know, these are our policies, these are the rules that we're complying with, and this is how we've gone beyond. But you know, that it's just one of those, it's a communication tool that people need to know what you're doing. Otherwise they expect, oh, well, you know, this is what's always happened here. And or maybe they're not doing something for me. So as long as we have it spelled out, and you know, a simple thing like when you take a check to the table, our servers are trained to say, we made sure this is sanitized for you prior to our bringing it over here. Just that little reassurance makes someone feel like, oh, they really are going above and beyond just to make sure that we're safe.
Excellent. So we have another question. Have any of the panelists cut their menu offering to streamline their process or to help with managing their costs? I want to hear from you on that one.
We did the first week we were doing the carryouts and the curbsides and the delivery plans because we wanted to make sure we could handle that. But we ended up having more time, so we had ability to open up the entire menu. It wasn't an issue. It was an initial thought, but it really wasn't something that helped us by eliminating things. So didn't apply for us.
Got it. We also have another question. How do you think this will affect a new business not yet open? You want to take that one?
Who, me?
Don. Yeah. The question is, how do you think this will affect a new business not yet open?
I would hate to be in your shoes. New businesses, and we have some here locally, close by, neighbors that had just opened or were getting ready to open. The best advice I could give there is take advantage of discounted marketing. So the rest of us have peeled back our marketing, and a lot of the traditional marketing outlets, whether it be it newspaper, radio, I've been approached by anybody that does any kind of marketing and say, hey, we've got a special, we want to get the word out. Take advantage of that. You're a new business, you should probably have had that somewhat budgeted anyway to get your name out there. Emphasize the safety, emphasize the cleanliness, but there should be some deals out there when it comes to marketing in some of the more traditional ways. And like I said, people are out there searching. I see it all the time on social media for new places, not necessarily new places to go, but places that are being responsible in the reopening. So those are customers looking for a place to go. So I would hit those same avenues too.
Excellent.
This is Nicole. One piece of advice I'd like to give that person that asked the question too is, no matter what industry you're in, reach out to your trade association. They've got resources for you. They've got partnerships. They've got those. Obviously, we're working with a lot of sanitation partners right now that are new and different. And they're, they inundate Don and Kelly and Dennis every single day with which one's the best. And we can help. State trade associations can help back that up of, hey, these are vetted, these are good, they've been around a long time. So just reach out to the trade association, great resource for any of the industries in our state.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Nicole. We also have a question here. I am a professor in a hospitality and tourism program. Is a good time for young people to consider hospitality as a career? Mr. Chan, what do you think about that?
Well, I am a part-time professor at the local community college, and it's always a good time to enter the hospitality field. I mean, my father told me when I was very young, he said, look, choose one of two careers. And, my family's been in the restaurant business for decades, but he said you either feed people because people are always hungry, or you go into the medical field because people will always be sick. So if you go into the hospitality field, you will always have a job no matter what. So, this even with reduced numbers, eventually we'll bounce back and we'll be stronger than we ever were before.
Excellent, excellent. Kelly, what do you think about that question?
I just wanted to add to what he said in saying that, you can always have on the resume that you survived the coronavirus if you get in quickly. It's a once a lifetime opportunity. This profession is about servant mentality. We love to serve people, and it's instant gratification. So when you serve a good food with happy people in a clean environment and they say thank you, I mean, that's all we need. And it's a great way to get appreciation for a job when you serve a good plate of food and they're happy. So instant gratification, know that you're making a difference in other people's lives by the food they're eating, and just have fun with it. And you can't find too many careers that allow that to happen, and as much as hospitality does.
I'd like to add to that too, Greg, if I can. So FRLA, we work with all of the culinary training programs in the local high schools here in Northeast Florida. It's called ProStart. There's 16 of those schools here. So we work closely with those students, helping them understand what real life is. You're going to have to bust a table. You're going to have to be behind the scenes. All these things, hopefully, that they can make this a career and make it passion. As Kelly and everyone mentioned, it is all about hospitality. I joined the hospitality industry in the middle of the recession, and I can. So it's just all about the work you put into it, the positivity that you can do, and the value that you can add to whatever business you're in, no matter what industry you're in.
That is awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Nicole. I think on that note, we're going to actually conclude our session. Thank you for joining us today. I appreciate all the panelists that came. Nicole, thank you, and FRLA for being a part. The audience, please visit frla.org. Check out their site and some of the resources they offer. Of course, always take a look at sbdc.unf.edu. I want to thank Don Zamora for joining us today. We really appreciate you being here. Kelly Harris, thank you for joining us today as well. And then we appreciate your presence for being here also, and we thank you for your insights. All right, without further ado, we're going to turn it back over to Allie.
Yep, thank you guys, everybody. That was a very good webinar. Again, just want to remind everybody you will be getting an email with the survey, and then you'll also get a link to the recording once that is completed. And otherwise, thank you guys and everybody for the panelists for presenting, and all of the attendees for joining us today. Until next time.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.